Greetings. Well, I shared in a post this morning that I had one of the most spectacular, I think I can say the most spectacular dream I've ever had about revival last night. I'm still buzzing because of it, and I think it woke me up. I think I woke up somewhere between 3 and 4. I got up right away. It was so astonishing that I had to write down everything I could. I didn't want to forget anything of the details in the dream. But I did say in my post I was going to share with you later today more about the dream. But I tell you, I've been for hours now trying to process it, write it down. I just see more and more, remember more and more as I'm doing it. I really want to present this right, but I'm going to share with you the general sense of the dream now in this rant, as I said I would. And some of the backstory is a lot of things I seldom share when I have a dream or vision, which a lot of people are interested in for some reason. Things like, what did I feel when this happened, or what did I sense? And I like to keep myself out of those things as much as I can. But I understand the interest in it. Sometimes that is a part of the revelation. So I'm going to do a little bit of the backstory here, and it may be meaningful to you. If not, just skip ahead. But anyway, in this dream, started off just so simple. I was riding a bicycle to a Sunday school class that I had been asked to speak to, and they had asked me to speak on the subject of revival. And it was just a mediocre Sunday school class at a medium-sized church. It seemed like a denominational church of some type. I couldn't tell things like that. But it was nice. And when I got there, I was so astonished by their hunger, the hunger of the people, that I was personally ashamed that I had not taken the time to much better prepare for this class, to speak to them and share with them the very best that I could. Hunger draws that out of you. I think it draws it out of the Lord. Want to get the best from Him. So, anyway, I went in with this feeling of shame. I was just astonished. Every seat was full, standing room only. I don't know how they could have packed any more people into this room. And it was a modestly sized, it's probably pretty large for a Sunday school room. But that's what it was. And it was packed. And there were people waiting outside just so they could talk to the people that had been in the class to hear what it said. I had not seen this kind of hunger that I remember, except for on a couple of occasions. When one time I was speaking at a church in London, and it was one of the biggest churches in London. And I remember how when I got there, I was so amazed. It was absolutely packed out. People standing. They even had to open the windows all the way around that church so people outside, standing outside, could hear. And this was long. I wasn't expecting that. And that was a real experience I'd had one time. But anyway, when I was riding up to this Sunday school class in my dream, I was thinking, one time I was virtually everything I said was being broadcast around the world. It was being distributed. Our books Some of my books have been published in 50 languages and were bestsellers in almost all of them. And now, I mean, lately, I have felt a real diminishing that, which I was okay with. I mean, this is not a bad thing. I felt like I've done what I could. And, we went through a series of attacks and everything last year. We just had mind-boggling things that kind of diminished our ministry, Morning Star. We lost about half of our partners and half of our people in many ways, but I just take it, it's the Lord's will. Maybe it's His time, for me. And I felt like it was giving me far more time to seek the Lord and to study some things I really felt compelled that I needed to understand, especially the books of Daniel and Revelation. I was totally okay with this. And the Lord had shown me I was going to get to speak before I left this world. I'm going to get to help some of His mighty messengers at the end of this age. I'm going to get to help them along their way. I was totally okay with all this. And I have never considered myself a great speaker. I very much consider myself pretty much a poor speaker, but I have, I think, very good content that people tend to want to hear. But it's my ability to speak, articulate, and all, I have always felt was not that great. And then it was diminished by the stroke I had and things. But that is what it is. I want to be totally content in whatever state the Lord has me in or can use me in. And I feel like in this state, it's making me far more open to Him and His leadership, more patient. I can't do things I used to be able to do. And I have to rely on the Lord. Lord, I have to seek Him. I see all those good things. But I remember going to the Sunday school class thinking those thoughts. So I used to speak and the world would listen, it seemed like. And now I'm speaking a little Sunday school class. But that was good. I wasn't, it wasn't a painful thing it was just, I was noting this and was totally okay with it, believe it or not. But I got there and the hunger, man, it did something to me because I didn't think I hadn't met people, Christians or anyone that had been that hungry for the Lord in a very long time and hardly ever. That little Sunday school class, I would have taken that over any conference or millions of people in the big gatherings and all. I would much rather speak to that little Sunday school class. So when I got in there, I'm really ashamed that I hadn't prepared better. But I said, if this is what I get to do now, I am so excited about it. These are the hungriest people I've ever met. And the presence of the Lord came. Now, I've been in some of the most spectacular meetings, I think, where we've had a visible appearing of the glory of the Lord. We had the pillar of smoke that appeared in one of our conferences. Pillar of fire. It wasn't fire. It was more the smoke. It was a cloud, a pillar of cloud. And but it appeared right in the middle of the stage in one of our conferences. Everybody saw it. And but I've been in just meetings where the presence of the Lord would come in, His glory would manifest, where we'd lay on our faces for many hours and not even know when it was over how much time had transpired. I'd have trouble figuring out. I say, have we been laying here for 15 minutes or for 5 hours. I couldn't tell. It was so intense. And I love those. We call them visitations of the Lord. And, one of those can keep you going for 10 or 15 years, ministering, sharing, just one touch from the Lord like that. And, but I was being blessed my whole life. I've been blessed by prophetic dreams and encounters and all kinds of things. And I don't know. I don't think I've earned any of them. I don't think it's because of my wisdom or anything else, but I have asked for them. I ask for them all the time. Maybe I'm just so weak, I need that kind of thing to keep me going and keep me on track. But I don't know why. Don't want to speculate. But in that Sunday school class, it was like, it touched me like I had not been touched by anything in a long, long time. And word went out like wildfire. So they came and asked me if I would speak at another meeting. I said, well, where are you going to put the people? I mean, we've already got too many people for this little, this one room. They said, we'll get a much bigger venue and all if I would come speak. I didn't know why they wanted me to come speak because I hadn't said much. When the Lord shows up like that, you shut up. You don't talk. You don't become a blabbermouth in his presence like that. You shut up and listen. And that's pretty much what I had done. I'd shared a few details about revival before he just came in such a way, I let him take over. And I said, well, yes, if you want to get another place, do another meeting like this, I'll do it. I'll come. And just praying the Lord would come. Because when he doesn't show up, I'm not that good. I can't, my opinion. But so they got a much bigger venue, and it seemed like the whole city turned out. Maybe it's like one of those meetings in the book of Acts when Paul had like the whole city. That's what it seemed like happened. Now, I had prayed and I had prepared as best I could. Because if the Lord didn't show up, I want to have a pretty good sermon anyway. Something to give these hungry people. He showed up even bigger than at the first one. And not only had people come, like it seemed the whole city wanted to come, they had already started showing up from all over the world. Now, this was a very real graphic dreams, one of those like you feel like I'm there. You're really there. Did this really happen? But no, this was a dream. I woke up from it. And, well, anyway, this thing, it kept building. It was stirring the world. And there were things going on like worldwide. The meetings we were having were becoming world news. And it's like everything else that had been in the news, all of the world events and world leaders doing this and that and all that had become backstory. It had become background news. The revival was so interesting, so fascinating, so captivating, and was touching the world in such a way. Almost all of the news media was covering the revival. And way in the back, you might find something about NATO decided this or something of world news type things. Like people weren't even interested in that stuff anymore. At about the third meeting, and in this dream, top people from government, from industry, from business, from every field, sports and entertainment, all the top people were showing up. And they were so touched by the presence of the Lord, they quit their jobs. They quit what they were doing. It was that impacting. And now, I didn't know it, but I pretty much, I am not as good at it. I think I could have been better at administration of things like Morningstar. Morningstar deserved a much better administrator than me over the years because I had to travel so much. And when I came home, I'm jet lagging for days and not very good. And I think the leadership of Morningstar was always handicapped because of me, the leader. But I had a good team. They did great, doing most of the stuff. But still, it was me. I was the face of the ministry and everything. And anyway, that's my opinion of things. But the Lord, He sent us great people, and we still have a great team and all that I'm very, very thankful for. But if I had been able to just stay here and lead Morningstar and administrate it, I think I could have done a much, much better job. But that wasn't the way it happened. At the time, I was called to go all over the world. I need to go, and I need to take words. Sometimes our words got published in national newspapers, and it changed nations and all at times in the past. And that was my calling at that time. And I think, who knows, maybe I would have messed things up much worse at Morningstar if I tried to run it, come home, been there all the time to run it like it would. But I have thought a lot about that, how, I felt honestly a little guilty for not being able to do better for the administration of Morningstar. And I know the importance of that ministry. The Lord gave us the name, gave us the purpose. And but I felt like lacking, and I didn't do as good as someone there else could have done, maybe. But that's just me. Maybe I'm messed up and thinking, I don't know. It's not that important. But I thought often, if anything like a world revival or anything breaks out here, I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to miss anything. And I want to be sure it has the very best administration and leadership at home as it can possibly have. Well, the Lord took care of that. He sent like the world's best business leaders, government leaders, every kind of leader you can think of to this revival that was just breaking out. This was like at the third meeting, people on that level started showing up. And they were so touched by the revival, by the promise of the Lord, they didn't want to go home. They quit their jobs. They just said, we're not leaving. We're staying here. They would send for their families or whatever and just parked there. This was only like the third meeting, but these became some of the best administrators that there could have been. And, some of my abilities and those things have been diminished by I'm 76 years old now. And, I've had a stroke and I've had things that the Lord's used to slow me down, but I just couldn't do things as well as I would have probably wanted to do, an engineer, but I didn't need to. In this revival going forward, the Lord took care of all that. And I was able to totally rest. He's got this. The administration, we were constantly could not find big enough facilities, could not find big enough venues. I mean, there was no way that we could adequately take care of all the people coming or anything like that. Lord had all that. He took care of it and brought the best of the best to do it. So, through all of this, my job was to show up at meetings, and I did travel some. I remember one of them, at the end of the dream, I was asked to go to a country in Eastern Europe. And I agreed to go. I felt like the Lord called me to go there. I always loved and had a heart for Eastern Europe and Eastern Europeans. And how much I was looking forward to that. And then I heard all of Eastern Europe is mobilizing for this meeting that I'm coming to and going to speak to them in. And again, I'm thinking, look, I'm not that good. Even though I was really blessed by their hunger and everything, I said, good night. I can't, but the Lord took care of it like everything else. And basically all I would have to do, sometimes show up, pray, start speaking for a little bit, share. My whole message was revival and knowing the Lord, drawing closer to Him, seeking the Lord, loving God, all the, very simple, straightforward things. Sometimes I'd hardly get a few sentences out. The Lord would come in such a way I didn't say anything else. And I didn't even know what good I had done by being there, but it worked maybe to draw the people or something. But it was Him moving. And I've said this often in the years. I said, the greatest move of God is going to be God moving, not men. It's not centered around people or anything like that. And this certainly couldn't be centered around me that much or at all, because I wasn't doing anything. I was enjoying the ride and loving it, if that makes sense to you. And people, because I'd been at the first meetings and seen the thing, everybody pointed to me as the one who had ignited it. Maybe I did. Maybe it was that, but it wasn't me. It was the Lord. Only the Lord can do that. I can't do that. But I felt a compelling to stay the way I was doing. Do not get involved in any way in administration or that type of thing. And just do and go where I know the Lord has sending me, which I've been devoted to for several years now. And I used to respond just because friends were inviting me wanted me to come to some meeting or something, and I would do it for them. But for the last few years, I've really tried to only go where the Lord has shown me to go and to do what He showed me to do. And I'm getting deeper and deeper into that, where, just I want to stay in the will of the Lord and get closer and closer to Him. But anyway, just sharing with you about that dream. And I share with you some of the highlights. There is so much more to this. I think I'm not, I was going to write a little something to release on our app, which you're probably listening to this on, the Morning Star app. But it's too much. Every time I sit down to write, I remember other things. I remember so much more. And I know they're an important part of the message. So right now, I'm thinking we just resurrected the Morning Star Prophetic Bulletin. I sent out a bulletin, a week or so ago, just to get that going again. I feel like we're going to have to send out on a prophetic bulletin. That's what I sent out the first chapter of the Final Quest on, and that was the vehicle for that. And the Lord had spoken to me about resurrecting that vehicle, the Morning Star Prophetic Bulletin, because He was going to give me some stuff. Well, I feel like this is one of the best things He's ever given me. And I pray that when you read or hear about this, I'm going to try to share it Sunday morning. I'm speaking at our church at Heritage in Fort Mill. I'm going to speak there. I'm going to try to share more of the details and all about this dream and what's coming. I know this is coming. Now, I don't know if I will play the role of myself as I was portrayed in the dream. I don't know if I'm going to be, I could have just been there to share what has happened from a first person experience. I wonder if sometimes every day, if this is my last day on earth, but I don't know that. I don't care. I know this was from the Lord. I know this is happening. I would love to see and be a part of it, but don't have to be. I am really good to be a part of the great company of witnesses and see it from heaven. I know you can see better from heaven. I don't care how I witness it or be a part. I don't have to be a part. But I've seen it from afar. Isn't that what all the patriarchs and all did? They got to see these things from afar. And even if I'm doing that, I'm good with that. I'm good with whatever part the Lord has for it. But I know this kind of revival is coming. In it, there were miracles so great. In this time right now, the world, if something like this happened, you think it would get the attention of the world. In my dream, the presence of the Lord was so great. The greatest miracles were happening, and people were just going, yeah, that's great. They weren't even that impressed. They were far more captivated with the Lord himself. And throughout the dream, it stayed on track. And I knew that if the focus on the revival began to eclipse the people's devotion to the Lord himself, the revival would begin to wane. It would be over. And so it was imperative that we stay focused. Our main job as human beings is loving God. Isn't that our number one job description, the number one commandment, to love him above all things? And we can't love anybody else or the rest of the world or anything else the way we're supposed to unless we love him first and above all. We've got to stay on that track. As Peter Lord used to say, the main thing is to keep the main thing, and the main thing is loving God. So that was the revival, but his presence, one moment in his presence like that it can carry you for a long, long time. One experience. Remember one time when I was so burdened with everything going on at Morning Star, we have so many different ministries, schools, churches, everything, and I'm sitting in my office. One day I just really under the burden of everything. And I was praying, I said, Lord, if I gave 100% of my time and attention to just one aspect of this ministry, and we had 8, 10 major ministries under us, besides all of the churches and stuff. I said, Lord, if I just gave all of my time to one, it wouldn't be enough. And I was just feeling the weight of the whole thing. I may have been burnout. I'm sitting there, and I felt the presence of the Lord enter my office. I didn't see him. I've had many experiences where I saw him, but I didn't see him. But I felt his presence so manifest. I didn't need to see him. And he just said one simple thing. He said, I uphold the universe with the word of my power. I can help you with this little ministry. I felt so stupid, but I felt so energized by that one moment. And then he left. But that one touch of his manifest presence, I felt like, Lord, we need more to do. What are we going to do when we finish saving this world? Do we have other worlds to save? What's going to, it's like that energy, I had to have something to do with it from his presence. I wonder if that's what Peter felt. Remember when after the Lord was resurrected, and I guess some time had gone by, and they decided to go fishing. Peter wanted to go fishing, and they didn't catch anything all night, and they come back, and there's the Lord on the beach. Of course, they didn't know it was him then. But he said, "What did you catch?" And they said, "Nothing." He said, "Well, throw your nets on the other side." And immediately John knows that's the Lord. So Peter, it says, put on all of his clothes, his garments, and then threw himself into the sea to go be with the Lord. Now, if you've done a tour of Israel and all, they'll tell you there, if Peter put on all of his clothes, like there's no way he could have swam to shore. He must have walked on the water to see the Lord. That's the only way you could explain that. That's just the way they tell. But even so, he goes in just a few minutes, being in the presence of the Lord. He goes back, and all the other apostles who are fishing out there, and they threw the nets on the other side, they became so full they couldn't pull them in. And they're all struggling to pull the fish in. And Peter, after spending just a couple of minutes in the presence of the Lord, goes out there and by himself pulls all these fish in. I'm just saying, most of our prayers and all are devoted, Lord, fix this problem or that so we'll be better. What would fix all of our problems more than anything else is one touch from the Lord. Then we would find out, we would have the energy, whatever it took to do it. But I'm just saying, we need him. He is the answer to every human problem and every human need. The Lord himself is the answer. Anyway, I wanted to share this. I hope it made sense. I feel like my mind was short-circuited last night. It was so intense, but so wonderful. I'm still zooming on it. And that one touch, those times in the dream when his presence came into the meetings like he did. And that's what we're looking. That's what the last day revival, the harvest is the end of the age, the last day revival. More than any other characteristics it's going to have, his presence is going to be the best, the biggest, the most important, his manifest presence. And that's what the disciples asked him. When they asked him recorded in Matthew 24, about the signs, the end of the age, and of his coming. That word translated coming there, look it up. It's not the word that is usually translated coming. It's the Greek word parousia that means presence. They were, because they said, Lord, what will it be, the signs of the end of the age and of your presence, and then of his coming? His second coming. But their main focus, he had taught them something about his coming presence that was going to be so awesome. This is what they were asking about there. And I guess that was such a foreign thought to the translators. In English translation, it's almost always translated coming, but that's not the way it reads in the Greek. I'm just saying, check it out. So what is this parousia? There's a big difference between someone coming and someone being present. They saw something of a presence of the Lord. I think that's going to fill the earth in such a spectacular way before his second coming. He's going to come to his people, to his church. Through his church, his presence is going to fill his temple, the body of Christ. It's going to astonish the world and get the world's attention. But This is before second coming. You know, his second coming, you don't need signs for. The whole world's going to see him. All flesh is going to behold him coming. But this parousia, we need to know the signs and to be ready for that. And to ride that wave as long as it is. As long as it is moving over the earth. That's what I think my dream was about last night. The signs of his parousia. The things he's going to be doing. Now think about this. What I saw in my dream last night, it was becoming worldwide. Suppose that was just one little aspect of what was going on in the world. There were many others that he was manifesting the same way or maybe even more so. I'm just saying, it's going to be so big, I don't think our imagination can outrun what the Lord's really going to do. And that's what he told me one time. When I was lamenting about all the supernatural stuff Hollywood was doing, all the, comic book movies and stuff, all the spectacular powers people had and everything. I was just saying, Lord, that's going to draw a lot of people into witchcraft, all kinds of weird supernatural. He said, don't worry about that. He said, he's got that. He said, what he's going to do through his people is going to trump even the wildest imagination of Hollywood. What the Lord is going to do is going to be more spectacular. What he's going to do through his people. And I think some of the people he's given me a chance to maybe help along their way are the ones who are being prepared for that. So I am so excited. Anyway, that's my rant for today. And, it's kind of worn me out. I mean, it was so intense. I hope I made sense with all this, but thank you for listening. Thank you for passing these things on. And thank you for all of you who have come onto our app. The Morningstar app, it's totally free. You can get it totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. And that's where I do most of my communicating and outside. But I so appreciate it's where I get interchange from the people too. I really hear some of you. I know your names now, and so appreciate what your input and everything. But if you don't have the app, just go to your app store, Apple app store, whatever, and you can download it for free and start checking in. But anyway, thank you. I think I've probably taken up enough of your day, but pretty soon the Lord's going to be taking far more. Trust me on this. I'll share a lot more or some more on Sunday morning at Heritage. If you have a chance, you're in the area, want to come to our service there. Thank you. There's something of a coming of the presence of the Lord, the manifest presence of the Lord that is going to precede his coming, that is going to precede his coming. I tell you, he's going to come to his temple. He's going to come in his temple before he comes to it. There's going to be something of his manifest presence in his people. Open our eyes to see you, know you, follow you, and to be used by you. And anoint us to preach the whole message of this life.